want to make sure my face is on the re-edited version from now on. That's my only stipulation.
Oh. Hello.
We're back.
How are we doing? Just a standard Sunday, boys. Just chilling with the family. Just thought we'd come on for a chat. No real news or anything.
Nothing happening.
Did not blow up during the day. No, nothing like that.
Didn't think so. But look, we're here. Welcome to the Full Loaded Transfer Show Sunday edition special. And of course, the boys are in town. Mark, Daz, how are things? How was your Sundays?
Yeah, good. Not too much. Didn't really do a lot. A little bit of TV. Busy decorating. Got a lot coming up with regards to confirmations and communions for two of my kids. So yeah, busy with that. Middle one daughter was going into secondary, so she, Pete, as you would know, she had her entrance exam yesterday, so big day for her. And then she's got confirmation coming up in 2 weeks' time. So yeah, just prepping for that, decorating, sorting the house, and kind of steadying on. I was out Thursday, met up with an old pal. Shouldn't have, because it ended badly. There was alcohol involved, and then I was out again last night as well. So yeah, a bit of a hectic week, mate, but glad to be on. Obviously, as I said, nice to just get on and have a chat with you lads. Not much going on, so we'll find something to talk about.
Yeah.
And for me, yeah, no, we had a bit of a family day. We went into the city, into Galway City, and did a bit of bowling and things like that. And then my phone started blowing up. We said we'll have this show, and then it's just started building and one thing after another. Even probably could have a breaking news tonight, the way it's going. It's just been one thing after the other this evening. Even when I'm eating my dinner, I go, "What is going on now?" But we're going to get into that.
Just a bit. Look, we thought, why not get another fantastic guest on? And it's a guest that we know very, very well. And was on earlier on in the window. So great to welcome back in Graeme Bailey for the 90 Min. How you doing, Graeme?
Yeah, how you doing, guys? Thank you for having me back.
No,
I'm feeling a lot better than I was I'm feeling a lot better than I was last time, Pete. As it turns out, I had COVID and I tested positive just after the show. But yeah, I still after it was the 2 hours that Pete kept me on for, drove me over there. if you remember, I was coughing quite a lot in the show, Pete. If you remember,
yeah, I remember.
Yeah, he just likes to keep it light, mate. So that's the problem.
We tested the day after, and it turns out, yeah, I had COVID. So I battled through the elements.
Okay, now though.
Yeah, much better. Thank you.
Great. Glad to hear that all is well, and a pleasure for you to join us on the show tonight. And look, where do we start? Jesus. Well, first and foremost, let's start with our new signing. He is here, Gordon, or as Daz calls him, Flash Gordon. Daz is doing the sign. The sign is there. The A is in the house. Anthony Gordon has arrived, as expected. 45 million. Maybe not straight payment, but that's a separate conversation. But he's here. And look, just flick through some quick pictures with a main man, Dan Ashworth, as he gets himself into the training ground, and he meets some old friends while he's there. Gets to meet Fabian Shah, as we know, the home game. They had a little bit of an argy-bargy. He also meets someone else in that picture as well. Someone else seems really happy to see it.
Do you know? I was just going to say that is class at the back. Look at Mickey.
Smiling as always.
Look at him, bless him. He's grinning ear to ear. He's buzzing. He might not be when he finds out he's playing on the right-hand side of midfield as well. But we'll get into that. Meets the skipper. And as well, Mark, you put this on our chat earlier. Wilson gives a nice little greeting on Instagram to welcome Gordon into the club. That's
if you can't beat him, join him. Just a classic one-liner from Callum.
Love it.
That was superb.
Wilson, he's proper banter. Meets the Brazilians, Bruno and J7. And of course, he meets the main man, the gaffer, Eddie Howe. And excited, really, really excited about that deal. The more it got closer, got to the point in which it was done, really excited. Any other additional thoughts, Mark? and Daz about the deal being done and signed off?
Go on, Daz, go first while I'm banging these.
Yeah, happy, and it was nice to see him in the Metro Centre yesterday. I saw people putting up the pictures, a bit of a meet and greet before it was officially confirmed. And from the intro video as well, it looks like he's wanted to kind of move to Newcastle for a while. And as we kind of alluded to the other night, that yeah, it'd be interesting to see what Eddie Howe and the coaching staff can do with him now. A bit of proper coaching for him, and I think he'd be a great signing for us. I've always bigged him up, and especially from last season. I always thought he was a good one to watch, and you can even see from the clips as well of his pressing. He's just class. So looking forward to seeing that in the black and white shirt.
Definitely. Go on, Mark.
Yeah, no, look, I think like Daz, I think it's a good sign, and I think when we played them last season, I thought he was one of the standouts. Obviously, he started to have his breakthrough season. I think one of the interesting things for me is, as probably may or may not sound bad, I actually think he opens up a whole new territory of fouls, in that I think he'll get fouled quite often. Yeah. So I think with where that position he plays, either right side going forward or left cutting in, which he can play both, he always, in particular when he plays left-hand side, cuts into the right and is more kind of tends to get fouled a lot more centrally, which would open it up obviously for the likes of Trippier and Shaw and so on. So I think, look, outside of I think one other, he's the second fastest sprint and runner along the Premier League. So yeah, I think it's a good addition. Represented England under 21s. You know, been playing at Everton. Look, always hard, I think, for the kid to leave the club. Everton are in a mess, but you know, like anybody, why would I get Everton are in the trouble they're in, and a lot of Evertonians on my timeline tonight are going, we robbed yous, and the money you paid, it's mad. He's only got 2 goals. He's shite. This, that, and the other. Yeah, but he was in a very, very poor team with an overrated manager. So now that he's with the best English manager in the league, and a team that's sitting third, and everybody that sat and slated us and said, well, Joe Linton was shit, Miggy was shit, and everything else, now look what they are. So I think we'll only see this kid flourish, and welcome to the tune. Really excited to see him in a black and white shirt flying down the wing.
Definitely. And look, I have to say, before I come to Graeme, 370 plus in the chat. Great to have you all with us tonight, and involved in the Full Loaded Transfer Show. Great to see you all. Can't name you all. See you all in the chat, throwing in your questions and your thoughts. Look, we will get to the latest news with regards to Newcastle, and we'll get our own perspectives, and we'll get Graeme's perspective. But just before we do that, Graeme, the deal was done. Anthony Gordon, we didn't, obviously, it wasn't highly linked with us at that point earlier on in the window. But just what are your thoughts on Anthony Gordon? Do you think it's a good piece of business, or do you think we've overpaid? Do you think he's good enough? What are your general thoughts?
Well, I just wanted to address Eddie Howe, best English manager in the Premier League. He's not even the best English manager in the North East. We all know that's Super Michael Carrick.
I was wondering how long before that came out, to be fair.
Well, you'll be, it's Geordie, so you'll be happy. Yeah, I like Gordon. Yeah, there's a lot of Newcastle fans who owe him an apology. I was at the Everton Newcastle game on that night, and a lot of people on that front row near the press box who owe him some apologies. I like him. He's a player who obviously Eddie Howe likes. He's rated him, and I think we'll get onto it in terms of players still coming in, and this is a clear sign the club trusting Eddie Howe. I don't think it was completely unanimous about bringing him in, but they've done the homework on him. There's no red flags in the background. Eddie and his staff made sure that there's the right type of player. We've seen that. There's a reason they didn't go for Danjuma. And I like him. He's an ultra talented player. He's got a very, very high ceiling. His ceiling is, and I know you all think that Miguel Almiron will be winning the Ballon d'Or next year. He won't be. Anthony Gordon won't be either, but he's got a higher ceiling. He's got a higher ceiling. He could be, if you look after him, look how young he is. He's still he hasn't played 100 Premier League games yet. He is a sensational talent. And you got to remember, guys, Chelsea were in for him, and they were in for him for a reason. And one of the main reasons they were in for him was he took them apart at Stamford Bridge last year with Thomas Tuchel. Anthony Gordon is a top-class player. and he upgrades what you've got. He really does. I know you guys, you love Valentine Maximin, you love Miggy. This is an upgrade. You know, yeah, Miguel Almiron's had one good half season. Let's hope it continues for you. Let's hope he has a good his first ever good full season for Newcastle. Let's not forget that. Let's hope he has a good full season. And ASM will come on to ASM, actually.
You always do, Graeme.
During this chat. Well,
Oh dear.
if no, I'm just saying, if I was any fans, I wouldn't be buying a Sam Maximin Newcastle shirt in the next few days. Let's just say that. It's not guaranteed he finishes the season with you. But Gordon, going back to him, yeah, I like it. Good signing. And it's a sign you have to trust the managers. We see it with Arteta and his players. I've been critical of Arsenal not backing him completely, even Ten Hag at United. If you think you've got the right manager, you've got to back him, and that's what the have gone through with it. And a £45 million deal, what's that in the modern day? Not much. He is Newcastle's obviously second highest, most expensive player of all time, but you know those records are going to be blown out the water in the next 18 months or so anyway.
Yeah, great points. So look, don't think I've not forgotten that Alan Maximin comment that you just made. We're going to come back to that at some point later on in the show, no doubt. But look, I think best thing to do is go to, first of all, the news that we got given to us earlier on this morning. First and foremost, in that a deal has been agreed with Harrison Ashby from West Ham. It was looking like we were going to get that deal done in the summer. Didn't quite materialise, but then it looks like we've gone in again. West Ham were trying to pay over or want over the odds in our opinion for him. We've managed to get a deal done. Keith Downey reported earlier on saying a total agreement around 3 million inclusive of add-ons. His contract is out at the end of the season, but it's looking like Harrison Ashby is coming to Newcastle. What were you hearing on this deal, Graeme? Does it look straight cut? He's signing, no issues. We hear he's already on his way to Tyneside today. Yeah,
he was making his way up there this morning. Obviously, a player who Newcastle's academy staff have liked for a long time. You know, he's not. He hasn't done it. He hasn't done it at West Ham. I spoke to a few West Ham, got colleagues at 90 min. Hasn't had a look in, hasn't had a try. So I think he's one who it's a bit of a punt, but a 3 million. What's that buying nowadays? So why not? He's got the attributes to be a good player. So I think it's worth doing. And obviously, there's not a dearth of right backs coming through the youth system. So they've made the move and going to give him a chance. So no, why not? We've seen plenty of deals like this. You know, look at when Middlesbrough took Jed Spence from Fulham. He was on the scrap heap, and then he went 3 years later got sold for 20 million. So these deals can bear fruit.
Definitely. And we can see the questions flowing in right now from everybody. But first and foremost, George Hayes, such an amazing donator to the channel, $20. Thank you so much for your support. And look, not the only one as well. Massive thanks to, Mark, just 1 second. Drew Knox, thank you for your £10 donation to the channel. The super chats are open. Super chats are available in How We Trust. So yeah, any donation is amazing for our channel and helps us build and grow, as you already know. So thank you so much for both of your donations tonight. But lads, Harrison Ashby, was it a necessity that we got him through the door, you know, as a right back cover for Trippier? It seems that way from how Newcastle are acting in the window.
Yeah, I think he was obviously mentioned to us a while back. I've watched a few bits and pieces, a few clips from him. He kind of got a couple of runs out, but nothing more. There's a lad that I kind of chat a bit to on Twitter, Sam the Hammer. Give him a shout out at Sam the Hammer. And he really, really rates him, says this kid is the real deal. Quite peeved that he's gone. And that seems to be the flow from a few West Ham fans that I've spoken to. Obviously, my cousin is down that way. He's a Charlton fan, but seen him play a few times for like a lot of the lower, a lot of the youth sides, and said like this kid stood out a mile. So I think from that perspective, he looks the real deal. I think, you know, if you look at Trippier, I think we're kind of an injury away from a bit of a disaster. So I think this lad coming in seems to have the attributes that we want. I think, you know, get him into the focus, and, you know, eventually as he comes through, I think who else better than on a training ground as a player and a leader to be working or looking alongside Trippier and a few others in there. So yeah, I think he's a good deal from what I've seen. He's a really good player. So I think it's for 3 million. I think it's fantastic money. So yeah, looking forward to seeing him.
Definitely, really excited to see him. And look, I had a little bit of a back and forth with Lawless today with regards to Harrison Ashby, and he seemed to think that there might be question marks about his attitude with regards to, you know, the reason why he's not staying at West Ham. I mean, I've not read anything about that personally, but look, Mark, I'll come back to you because Daz is just off a second. Do you really think that Howe would sign somebody that had an attitude issue? Like, you know, Daz, you just come back on. Question marks about his attitude from Lawless today, Harrison Ashby. Do you really think, you know, Howe would sign somebody like that that had any question marks at 21?
Apologies, I had to jump out of. I thought there was an emergency there. But yeah, no. Dan Ashford and Eddie Howe know what they're doing. They would no way we'd bring anyone in that had any kind of attitude problem that would disrupt. No, I think that's just a bit of sour grapes, maybe. But yeah, we were linked to him on the transfer deadline day last year. I remember Keith Downey was all over it. It didn't happen then. With a lot of talk of Freshneda this window, and that went out the window. Then we went back in for Ashby. Be interesting to see what he can do. Kraft is still injured. Manquillo can fill in, but I think he can also fill in on the left as well, Manquillo. So yeah, good option to have, one for the future, and Eddie and the team will get the best out of him. So yeah, nice.
And look, you know, at that point, when that noise came in, everyone was just kind of thinking, okay, Harrison Ashby, get that deal done. That's it. All right, jobs are good and for the window. I don't think anyone thought anything would be done after that. And then we get, in the last hour, some other news that's kind of going to take our conversation now. This is what we're going to get into. And I'm really interested to get your thoughts, boys. But Graeme as well, from his inside perspective, his thoughts too. But just very, very quickly, just take the chat 1 second, Mark. Roy, thank you for your super sticker.
Cheers, Roy.
Thank you very much for your support for the channel, and of course, Jordy Mick.
Cheers, Jordy Mick.
Cheers, Mick.
We hope you're all well and you're on the road to recovery, to full recovery. And thank you very, very much for your £5 donation to the channel. Amazing. Just under 500. In fact, let's put it out there, 500 plus in the chat right now. Thank you so much.
I did tweet out, Pete, that Graeme may be bringing us a bit of an ASM exclusive. So that's coming up later in the show. So no pressure, Graeme.
No pressure. It'll be interesting regardless, and well sourced as well. But look, we got the news, interestingly, that something's going on, and it came out that John Joe Shelvey looks like he may well have played his last game for Newcastle United. It started with, and I'll go through the chain of how it came about. It started with Luke Edwards reporting he was on the verge of signing, Forest on the verge of signing John Joe Shelvey, and then it kind of spiraled out from there. Keith Downey's then reported on the back of what Luke said. Mentions about the big question whether the midfielder will go through with it. It leaves Newcastle short. Doesn't want to leave the northeast, then he puts out something similar to Chris Wood, getting a long-term offer in terms of a contract, wages. It looks very, very interesting, and Craig Hope as well has reported something very, very similar, and actually says on the back of that the search now intensifying for a replacement. Now, just when we thought we were done. It seems like we're getting pulled back into this transfer window. We're not quite done yet, boys. But look, first and foremost, Graeme, what can you tell us from your perspective? Because I know that you mentioned to me that you were also writing a piece because you'd heard the news as well as everyone else that Shelvey could well be going to Forest.
Yeah, they've been looking to move him on. He is, from the old regime, one of the highest paid players at the club. They'll be mightily relieved to get his wages off. He is on big in Newcastle, especially in Newcastle terms from the Ashley era. And obviously he was looking at Turkey, etc. But the Forest deal's come in. He won't be getting a huge pay rise at Forest, I can tell you that. But he probably will get at least an 18-month, 2-year deal, which is good for everyone. He wasn't going to get much game time at Newcastle. So I think they always knew this was coming. So I don't think it's a knee-jerk from Newcastle. The news was coming. Happy to get it done. And yeah, it'll take us on to the possible replacements. And again, we've known they are looking for another midfielder. It's from what I'm told, it likely be a loan. They've done the Gordon deal. It seems highly unlikely that they're going to pay big money. Not that they can't, but just with FFP, etc. guys, it's looking very, very, very difficult to fit that in. So a likely loan. We know he wants experience, PL experience, which, as in Gordon's case, doesn't have to be a lot, but it is still PL experience. So yeah, we'll go out into a few of the links and a few of the ones we're hearing. But yeah, fully expect them to get something over the line. Is it a domino effect? We'll talk about Chelsea in a minute. They might very well have to wait for other things. We see a lot of deals are related to other players. We've seen it with Pedro Porro and Tottenham, for instance. They had to wait for Sporting Lisbon to go and get Hector Bellerin tonight, and then that allows that to happen. Same here. As far as Newcastle have allowed Shelvey to go, will they wait to sign it off until they get this other guy in? But then if it is maybe someone from Chelsea, then we'll wait for Chelsea to see if they can get Fernandes. So many different issues can come up in the next 2 days.
Definitely. Look, boys, I want to get your thoughts on this because we've briefly had a chat with regards to it. Me just going mad in the chat. We're getting a midfielder. But look, I want to know your thoughts.
Did you mention any name, Pete?
Maybe. We'll get to that. We're going to get to, after this, we're going to get to who could it be. And we'll get Gordon, we'll get the thoughts of Graeme, and we'll get the thoughts of the lads as well. But look, Mark, I'll start with yourself. Shelvey, what were your thoughts when that news came in that he was going?
I think I've said this a couple of times. Now is the time we need to stop being sentimental. One of the things we talked about, I think the last time I was on was, where the club probably think they are in relation to the plan that they had moving forward. I would suggest that we're probably ahead of schedule. So I suppose there's a question there from the owners. And I think the key thing for me that I seen the other day was a little bit of a pit stop in Riyadh from Amanda, Darren Eales and Mehrdad. And then all of a sudden, a couple of days later, we've action. Gordon's in, Ashby's in. And if you think back into the summer window when we got a few signings, it was when Al-Ramian came to Newcastle and we then got we got signings in the door. Yeah. So it looks to me like there's been a little bit of a thumbs up. Certainly if you look at the chat from Eddie and some of the Newcastle seniors when they were over in Saudi during the summer, the summer tour when the World Cup was on, they went to Al-Ramian's and he said, it's not time to stand still. We want to go after it. So I think we've always said 1 or 2 additions will cement certainly, I think, a European place. Look, I think, a good friend, Sir Keith, who we have in the chat sometimes, made a really good point in our group chat, which was, you're probably not going to have another year where Chelsea and Liverpool are misfiring like they are. So probably now is as good a time to go and cement, or certainly at least try and break that top 4. Will we stay in it? We may not, but at least go for it, because I don't think there's that much to lose in that we won't secure a European place in some format. So I think for me, look, it's crash on. I think it seems, the players they brought in, we spoke about the attitudes and stuff like that. Somebody put up that, Ashby has a bad attitude. We were talking about it there, Gordon. Look, we know that the club do their scouting. We know that, Dan Ashworth and the, the team, the recruitment team, Nixon and the rest of them, they put a very, very good program together on these players that are going to come in. So I think we'll see a little bit more activity. There's lots going on in the chat. That there are 2 aircraft, one en route from Nice and one from somewhere else.
Here we go. The plane spotters are out.
The plane spotters are out. There is one en route from Nice, and there is also one en route from Amsterdam currently.
I wonder who's in those.
Both
I have a name for
towards
each.
Newcastle, apparently. So we'll take that with a pinch of salt. But yeah, look, there seems to be a bit of action. 2 days left. So yeah, all to play for, but exciting times. At least, as I said to somebody on the chat the other week, at least we know it's not Hamza Chowdhury.
Yes.
Don't need to fly him in.
Yeah, yeah, that's
Let's bring him in just to put him in the under-20s.
Yeah. Guys, thoughts on Shelvey? Now, I'll put it out there that there was actually quite a few Newcastle fans when the news broke that were slightly disappointed that Shelvey was leaving. It was almost kind of like, they were a bit like, oh, didn't really want him to leave. Were you in that mindset, or are you very, very similar to Martin in that, what, we have to ship these players out to move the squad on? Just what are your general thoughts?
General thoughts. I thought if Shelby is to go, because there's no guarantee that he's going yet. If he's to go, he has to go, and I'm going to be ruthless when it comes to transitioning the older player, the older school of players out under the Ashley era. But I think if he was to stay around and we're in the Champions League or some kind of European competition next year, he could do a job for us. I rubbished the report of the Turkey when he'll be going to Turkey when it came out first, because it wasn't going to happen. This one, waiting to hear back if there's any movement from when John Joe take up the offer. But yeah, you can see the appeal to him, and it is unfortunate the way it has worked out for him. He would have had that contract if with us if he hadn't picked up those injuries, because he was flying it in the preseason. But then I'll link it
to. Maybe it's not unfortunate. Maybe it's luck.
Maybe it's meant to be, but then link it to those plane spotters. There's some names you could think of that might be on those planes that we've talked about before, especially if they're coming from those directions. But it'll be. I'm sure we're going to get onto that, Pete, of who the possible replacements may be. But we'll leave that for now.
Definitely. Look, what we'll start with is some of the rumours and interest that's come out in that position today, because there has been a couple of new links with players linked with potentially coming to Newcastle United, and a couple, one which we know quite well, one which is new, I haven't heard for a while, and we'll go with that one to begin with, and that was Sander Berg. Now, if you don't know Sander Berg, centre midfielder from Sheffield United, currently Sheffield United are second in the Championship. Now, he was their record signing when they signed him when they were in the Premier League, and actually it was a very surprising deal, because he was wanted by a lot of top European teams, and I was actually quite jealous. One of my very good friends is a Sheffield United fan, and I was very jealous that they picked him up, because he's a top young player. I think he's 24 at this moment in time, and there was reports from the Chronicle, but the Gallagher report said that that we're interested, along with the likes of Liverpool and Chelsea, and looking at making an approach around 15-20 million. We have to say at this point, Fulham are also linked with him as well, but a talented player. Graeme, did you hear about any of those links with Sander Berg? And what can you tell us from your perspective? Would he be someone of an option?
I haven't heard Newcastle in any of the conversations I've had. Fulham made contact with his people early in the week. They're very much in pole position for him. They spoke to Sheffield United early in the week. I think there's a few links, such as Brighton, Leicester, a few others, looking at him. He is a top-notch player. He's had a lot of injury issues, etc. he wasn't particularly great in the Premier League last time he was there. But yeah, I've not heard him with Newcastle, and I'd be, and you're gonna have to pay money for him. It wouldn't be a loan, so I'd be very surprised if it was him.
Yeah, that definitely. Boys, Sanderberg, Mark, we were talking about this earlier. About the Sanderberg deal. What are your thoughts around this potential deal?
Yeah, I think he's a quality baller. I think he would fit straight into that team. I think he would slot into that position, allow Bruno to push up, which I think gives us more. Again, pushing forward, I think is more where Bruno wants to be. Certainly, listening to his last couple of interviews. So yeah, for me, Sanderberg fits straight into that, and at 20 million, I don't know why we're not all over that. I'd love to see him come in. So an absolute yes from me for Sanderberg if we could get him.
Daz, Sanderberg, what some people have had an issue with, since he's been linked about going down to the Championship and plucking a player from the Championship. I personally don't have an issue with it because I know how talented he is, but because it's not that high-profile name, does it matter? If he fits the quality and the style of play from our midfield. Before
I answer that, Pete, Martin, I'm just going to grab the chat and say shout out to Mike Calvert, and he's good news there that his daughter is home from hospital. So that's great news, Mike. Thanks for keeping us informed. Best luck with everything. So just I don't really know an awful lot about Sanderberg, really, Pete. I just watched a YouTube clip there when you mentioned his name here on. He does look decent, but I'd have no problem if someone is good enough. It's coming from the Championship. There's been plenty of quality coming from the Championship in the past, so why not? So yeah, if he fits the bill, and I think he's something like 24, that kind of age. So yeah, it's one that we could work with. If we were telling me he's like 28, 29, and said no, let's look elsewhere. But 24, we could do work with him.
Definitely, and he is a Premier League quality player. He is a very, very talented player. Had a few injuries, but mostly this season's been injury-free, so that's been a positive sign for him, no doubt about it. And look, we'll come to another player that has been linked with us, and this one looks like it potentially could be a loan deal if it does materialise, and it's Conor Gallagher from Chelsea that has been linked with us a lot recently over the last year as a potential signing for Newcastle, and lots of other places that have reported the deal, potential deal. Fraser Fletcher has put this up earlier. Newcastle and Palace are both looking at Conor Gallagher on loan. Chelsea to open apparently to letting the player leave. Do you see this one as a likely deal? Graeme, from your perspective, I know we've talked about Chelsea players before and the possibility of loaning a few. Or is there anyone else from Chelsea you think that we might potentially take between now and the end of the window?
Yeah, we already know. We know that there's players at Chelsea at Newcastle, like from Hakim Ziyech, Christian Pulisic, Conor Gallagher, and Ruben Loftus-Cheek. For me personally, I think Ruben Loftus-Cheek might be more likely. Conor Gallagher, there's obvious interest there, but Crystal Palace want him back, and we've seen he was played the year last year. I think it'd be very hard to beat Crystal Palace to him on loan. He loves the players. He got into the World Cup squad off the back of playing for Crystal Palace, so I think it'd be very hard to persuade him to come on loan somewhere. But obviously, as we said, guys, I think it will be a likelihood of this player coming in will be a loan signing from what we're hearing from the club, and we know Newcastle do like these players we said. And Loftus-Cheek would be an Eddie Howe type player. I think he'd fit in very well into the team. These Chelsea deals, are probably not Ziyech as they really want Ziyech out, and he's probably going to go no matter what happens. But with Gallagher and Loftus-Cheek, it probably is dependent on what Chelsea do next 2 days. Obviously, they've been linked after Moses Caicedo. I don't believe Caicedo will be leaving if everything we hear from Brighton. When I speak to Brighton, obviously did stories on Saturday. They're not even putting a price tag on Caicedo's head. They are standing firm. They're not letting him out, and I think that's the right call from Brighton because it'll be set a very dangerous precedent for them if they let him out. Given the other players they've got, what if you need to leave Brighton, all you need to do is moan about it and you get out. So I don't see Moses Caicedo leaving. And that's maybe unfortunate for Newcastle. However, the good news for Newcastle is that, and there's story in this as well, as I reported earlier in the week, that Benfica were presuming, or they weren't presuming, Benfica were fearing Chelsea coming back for Enzo Fernandez, and they have indeed come back for him. They are in talks to get him. They are going to make a slightly bigger first payment. It wasn't the fact that Benfica broke off negotiations at the start of the month, guys, because they were talking with Chelsea and it just wasn't going their way. 120 million euro release clause. Chelsea wanted to do it in installments, which Benfica was sort of open to, but they weren't willing to do a 40-40-40. They wanted 60 or 80 up front and then in installments.
Yeah.
Seemingly Chelsea weren't willing to do that. Now they are coming back with a slightly bigger attempt and including the player as well, from what we're hearing. So if you do want one of these Chelsea players, guys, I'd be cheering Chelsea on to get Enzo Fernandez. Not so much because obviously they become much better with him as one of the best young midfielders in the world, but it would then maybe release Gallagher and maybe Loftus-Cheek to move on in this window, because it's a tough one to persuade Chelsea to loan to you guys now. You are top four. Did Chelsea say that? But if they need to make room for Fernandes, that might be the way to go. So, yeah, if I was you guys, I'd keep a close eye on the Chelsea situation. He's already agreed terms, Fernandes. So that's a really, really interesting situation there. But of the ones linked, I think Loftus-Cheek would be the better fit for what you want, personally, because if you sign Gallagher, that's not going to help Bruno. He's going to have to sit even more, if anything. So, but I think Loftus-Cheek could play alongside him, help him push. I think Loftus-Cheek, as the footballer he is, I think he's an Eddie Howe footballer. I think he'd be a wonderful fit for you. I really do. And he can fill in at right back as well if Ashby wasn't up to the task.
I've got something else I want to come to you in a second with, boys. A few people talking in the chat, but a spanner in the works there potentially, because he wasn't a player that we were planning on talking about. Graham's thrown in the potential of Ruben Loftus-Cheek. I know we've briefly talked about him before, but Graham said he's an Eddie Howe player. Would you guys take him as an alternative to Shelby, even if it's a loan, not necessarily permanent deal?
I'll jump in there straight away. In any kind of deal, I don't want Ruben Loftus-Cheek. I don't know if you'd even get the Middlesbrough team, Graeme. But no, I don't want him.
Oh, come on! if you're comparing Loftus-Cheek to John Joe Shelby, it's a different.
I'll take John Joe Shelby every day.
One's a current England national who plays Champions League football regularly, and one's has been for 2 or 3 years.
No. I stick with John Joe over Ruben. But
no,
you
have to get to the mind. You have to get to that mind. Ruben Loftus-Cheek is a quality footballer. He really is. He is. Thomas too. All these Chelsea managers can't be wrong.
So some of the people in the chat, and I think Daz, you might have mentioned this yourself when we've talked about it before. He is injury prone though, Ruben Loftus-Cheek. He does spend a lot of time on the treatment table. There was someone in the chat. I've just missed it. I think it was Neil Calvert has put, Ruben Loftus-Cheek is injured more than John Joe Shelby. So, although he's a talented boy, is that something that we'd want to go for potentially? That he's going to be injured all the time.
Is he injured all the time, or is that just a misnomer? Is that just something you speculate? And obviously, he doesn't get as much game time, but that's to look at Chelsea's squad. I don't think he's injured as much as you might think, Pete.
Okay.
He's 27 as well. He's 27. It's not someone I want to see. Look, for me, this is what I said a couple of weeks ago. For me, if he wanted to, he should have moved a long time ago and be playing regular first team football. He was happy to sit it out at Chelsea for so long. So I don't know. It's not someone I'd like to see rocking up in this project that we've got going, where we bring in young players. Okay, if you're throwing maybe on a loan, but no, I still don't want to see him. Sorry, Graeme.
We'll just stop there because I think Martin's put on the chat on the comments. Thank you, Tampa team, for your
$25. Thanks very much, pal. Much appreciated.
as always, us boys really appreciate all the support that you give us. And Julie has put just further up on there, shots fired. We love Graeme coming on the show because he just tells it as it is.
As it is.
Shots fired. Graeme does. Differences of opinion. This is why we love Loaded, because
that's what it's all about.
We love it, and it's great. And you know what? If we all thought the same and had exactly the same thoughts, it'd be a really, really boring show. But lots of different opinions, lots of different interests. And Ruben Loftus-Cheek, get your thoughts in the chat, whether you think that it'd be a good move for Newcastle, like Graeme said, an Eddie Howe type of player, or whether you think like Daz, probably not the right type of player for Newcastle, and wouldn't necessarily want him. Really, really interesting point. Now, just really quickly, I just want to put something on, because Craig Hope has put out in the last 10 minutes or so a little bit of an update, and I'll just put it on the screen really quickly. He said, whilst Newcastle are exploring options, I'm told there is a chance they're done for incomings once Ashby's confirmed, in large part because of FFP, but also availability of players they like. Shelby situation will be evaluated and decision made accordingly, but player wants to go. Now, that's a real kind of interesting update with regards to that. And to be fair,
what I'm saying, Pete, though, they won't sign it off until they're sure. They'll let him go for his medical, they'll hold terms. It's Newcastle may take this down to the wire. They won't sign it off unless they explore this. It gives them chance. It's one of these things where players can go for medicals all they want. It doesn't mean the deal's is done. So I think, and just because John Joe might want the deal again doesn't mean they'll make it happen. So yeah, what Craig says there is spot on.
You know what, Graeme, absolutely spot on. And the reason why I wanted to put that up there is because Craig putting that out just in the last 10 minutes has caused mass panic. I've been tagged into various tweets saying we're done, we're not getting anybody, that's it. And they see that part in that and think, oh, we're done, that's it, it's over. There is, I'll put it back on the screen again, it is based on possibilities of the situation. FFP will be a consideration, of course it will be. It is in every window. We know that. That's nothing new. What they're saying is that they've got a pool of players that they want to sign. They're not just going to do a West Ham or an Everton where they just sign anybody that's available, and it's just one big massive scramble for any player. They're looking at a particular player that fits the style that they want, and there's a big pool of those players, in England and as well abroad. And we'll touch on some of those players abroad, because we've touched on one or two that are in England at the moment. But Graeme is absolutely right, and Craig Hope said the same. And boys, I want your opinions on this. Is that, I don't believe, in my opinion, and I could be wrong, you guys might have a different opinion, I don't believe that they sign off the Shelby deal unless there's another player coming in. If there's not another player coming in, I don't believe we sign somebody. Look, Daz, you're shaking your head. Yeah, are you in agreement with that? What are your thoughts on that and what Craig Hope's just said?
Yeah, no. Shelby won't go. I look at they'll if there's a decent offer, the business heads will kick in and they'll accept it. But no, they'll want someone lined up, even if it is just on loan. Not lots of speak, but anyone else, but and linked into that because as a commentator, because we will miss it otherwise. From Will, thanks Will for your donation. But Graeme, that's the question from you. Any truth in Newcastle getting the youngster from Sunderland? Apparently Newcastle were interested in the player. Said he will come as soon as he's 18 when his contract is up. Any word in that?
Is that Chris Rigg?
Yeah,
Chris Rigg. Yeah, he doesn't have a contract at Sunderland, so you won't have to wait too long. He's only 15, can't sign a contract. Chris Rigg, he's from everything the clubs are trying to get him. Man United, from everyone, he's got his pick of clubs. Fortunately for you, he's a mag. His family are huge mags, as you guys know. I'm not telling you anything. He's Newcastle bound from the story just before his debut in the cup tie on it. I think we mentioned it before. Yeah, he's Newcastle bound from my understanding. He's a huge talent. I remember a scout telling me 18 months ago he was the nearest thing to Brian Robson that he's seen in North East football. Obviously, it doesn't do any harm telling the Chris Rigg that because he probably doesn't know who Brian Robson is. So, but as you guys know, when he was a fantastic young Geordie coming through, he was allowed to leave the region. Chris Rigg won't be.
I tell you what, the Mackhams are in meltdown about a takeover, and bitter as anything. If we take Chris Rigg, then that's just going to implode.
Yeah, then I have to get used to it because you are.
Yeah, exactly. Long may it last.
Definitely.
Can just Pete, sorry, buddy, just before we crash on, can I just give a shout out? Obviously, Loaded Mag, we sponsor Concert AFC, the Bulls, and one of their lads yesterday played in the cup game, Ollie, and unfortunately broke his leg in 2 places. So he's out, not in good shape. So I just wanted to give him a shout out. Richie pinged me there to say give him a shout out. So Ollie and the boys in Concert AFC at the Bulls. Listen, Ollie, best wishes, pal. We hope you get well soon. And the leg is on the mend soon, and you're back on the pitch running around for the Bulls. So best wishes from all of us here, mate.
Get well, Ollie.
Definitely.
I didn't realize you sponsored Concert Boys. We're rivals now because I'm a big Stockton Town fan. So big Stockton Town fan. I go regularly. So yeah, rivals at that as well.
Yeah, our logos are on their sponsor. Our logos are on their sleeves. We're a sleeve sponsor, so
I'll wear my Stockton Town shirt next time then.
We'll wear the concert song.
Yeah, there you go. I just want to put on there. Sorry to steal the chat again, just for 1 second, guys.
Go on, mate.
Mark, sorry.
Look away.
Someone just put on there 514 in the chat, but only 30 likes. I think
come on.
Yeah, there was one there. Hang on, Lisa's on.
We might have gone up
plus 500 in the chat and 162 likes. Come on, guys and gals.
Do it.
5 or 6, not even. Get that button hit.
If you're not subscribing to the channel, come and subscribe. We're on the march to 6K. Come and join us. Come and hit that subscribe button. It just takes a second, and click that thumbs up. It means that more people can access the show and see the great discussions from all of his boys, everyone on the panel, and everyone in the chat as well, because you can see the chat and all the great comments that everyone.
It means we'll sign another player if you do. So hit that like button. Go on, do it.
There you go.
I'm dying to hear this ASM story, Pete. But carry on.
Go for it. Well, you know what? Let's go for a couple of European players that have been talked about, and I want to get their opinions. I think Martin's already touched on it when he mentioned there's some plane spotting going on, and he mentioned.
In terms of train pick, I was popping there. I'll just kind of raise one thing. You probably won't have his pitch. You won't have his pitch going to say this. The one deal I'm surprised that Newcastle haven't jumped on, and someone mentioned it in the chat before, and it just reminded me, it is the Weston McKennie one. I think that it is tough because he does like Jesse Marsh, and there's a lot of Americans there, but he's a risky character. He's got a few red flags with him as well, but 1 million down, 29 on obligation. That's probably what puts a few teams off. But yeah, I'm surprised Newcastle didn't show more of an interest in him, to be honest. So there are deals out. It just proves there are some deals still out there, guys. So even if you're unfortunate enough not to get Ruben Loftus-Cheek, there are still options out there.
You know what? He's not on tonight, but Chris Hall mentioned about McKennie. I think he dropped me a message, might have been yesterday or this morning, and he said when he saw the Leeds that had agreed a deal, he was like, "Why have we not got in there?" He's a talented boy. The only bad decision he made, in my opinion, is going to Juventus, because Juventus were in freefall when he signed for them. But he's a talented boy. The red flags I don't know too much about with regards to him, and if there are, then maybe that's the reason why, because we've talked about this before on the show. Mark, Daz, all the boys know that Eddie Howe does extensive work on all the players in which he wants to sign, or he will only sign off once he's done that extensive work, and maybe those red flags.
And that's why I said Daz, where Newcastle have done the work on Loftus-Cheek, Gallagher, Ziyech. They've done the work on them already, and they like them.
Yeah. Interesting.
Let's see how it plays out.
Yeah, I tell you what,
it's a hard sell here, Graham. It's a very hard sell. But keep going.
If this Ruben Loftus-Cheek deal goes through, then this is going to be Graham and Daz watch.
I just think it'd be a very good addition to that squad, and he's better than some of the players who are starting now.
Is he better than ASM? I know they're playing totally different positions.
I think you're better than ASM, Daz. Yeah.
Hold on now, that's a stretch.
But hey, then Daz could sit on the bench next to ASM, where he seems to be looks very at home on the Newcastle bench at the moment, doesn't he, Pete? Since he hasn't, has he started the game since we spoke, Pete?
Graeme, I'm not saying a word. But actually, whilst we're on the ASM talk, talk to us. What are your feelings around ASM? I know your feelings, but what do you think?
I think he's a decent Premier League player. I just don't agree with Newcastle fans who think he's the next Diego Maradona, because he isn't. You know, I don't think ASM. I'll be brutally honest. I don't think ASM is an Eddie Howe type player at all. I see him when he's banging the floor, and Jason Tyndall's have a lot of words with him. I don't think he fits in going forward with Newcastle project. I think he's lazy. I think he doesn't track back enough. He doesn't work hard enough. Where fair enough, Almiron does do that, and that's what endears him to the fans, etc. I think there is talent in there, but you know, he's got a contract till 2026. He's not getting a new one off Newcastle anytime soon, and you know, I understand there has been interest in him from elsewhere. You know, Gordon's coming in now. You know, he's already on the bench without Anthony Gordon being there. You know, he's as you guys know, he's not starting 11 anymore, is he? He's not in the starting 11 at Newcastle.
Not at the moment, but he's been working his way back into the squad, though.
Could well start on Tuesday.
Into the first team.
How many games? His last 8 performances have all been from the bench. He's been fit since December.
Yeah, but we have been playing well. I haven't been scoring an awful lot in the last.
We have, but do you know what I mean? By Anthony Gordon pushing him in, that puts him further down the pecking order. Keep nice on Max Man. I think it's one where, and you know, you wouldn't want a player to be happy. That's the thing. I'm not having to go at him per se, but I think you wouldn't want him to be happy. And hopefully, hey, it might really, it might inspire him to some more performances. But I really don't think. And Joe, it's just sometimes I think I'm surprised that Leicester didn't push through harder for him. Someone like that. That's where sort of level I see him at. You know, you guys are a top 4, top 6 team now, and is he part of your long-term future? It simply isn't.
The one thing I'll say about Gordon in relation to dislodging ASM,
dislodging what from the bench, Pete?
What?
Dislodging from where?
Look, I personally think ASM comes back into the team at some point. He's looked better in the last.
Well, he has to. He has to at some point. I think even a clock is right twice a day. He's got to come in at some point, obviously. But you know, he's not. He's clearly not a first teamer anymore. It's first 11. Sorry, he's obviously part of the squad, but he's not part of the first 11. I don't think.
Are you saying then, Graeme, that you think he's away for the end of the transfer window in the next 2 days?
I think no. I think it's very hard. If someone came in with a huge bid, they accepted, and then they could maybe go and get a Jack Harrison. Possible, but unlikely.
Yeah, well, Leicester have been linked with Jack Harrison, which you know.
But they brought Tete. They brought Ted. Yeah, they've done Tete, so that one looks unlikely. So, but there are options out there.
Well, if they get Harrison as well, does this mean that Maddison comes to Newcastle? I'm just throwing that out there. I'm not saying it's going to happen.
Maddison's no. I think unfortunately for Newcastle, you should have been cheering for Leicester a bit more this month. If they'd surged into mid-table and been safe, I think there would have been half a chance possibly. They could have used the Gordon money to try and get Maddison, but because they're in big trouble, that's gone against Newcastle's hopes of getting in this month. So I think with and we've seen with Tielemans as well, even Arsenal are waiting for the summer to get him on a free. So I think with Maddison, just hold tight to some. And if I was you guys, if you were so inclined, you should be cheering for Leicester to go down. May make your life a bit easier.
Well, you don't have to tell me twice. I'll be cheering. So you've got one person cheering it, that's for sure. But look, it's going to move and shake as we go along. And look, there's 2 European players that have been linked today. How real these links are, we have no idea. But interestingly, Mark put that there was some planes on their way to the northeast. One from Leeds.
Every other flight across Europe has stopped. There's only 2 physically flying. They're both heading north.
Yeah, there's only 2 flights that anybody in the northeast is worried about coming up.
Are they landing at Teesside or Newcastle? Where are they landing?
It looks like both are routed towards Newcastle, but look, they could fly over Borough. That's
Michael Carrick's still looking. We might land a few. Yeah.
I heard Ruben Loftus-Cheek was on holidays, so it might be him coming.
He's coming back from Malaga. Yeah.
And there's 2 So I'll just name both players. The one from Nice, Kefram Turam, who we've been linked to previously, and another we've been linked previously coming from Amsterdam is Edson Alvarez. Both very talented players. Alvarez is obviously more experienced, Mexican international, played at the World Cup. Kefram Turam, 21 years old, younger, played less minutes, but looks the raw type of quality that Eddie Howe's looking for. Look, Graeme, from your perspective, is there anything in this? Do you think that any of those deals could potentially get done, or is it just people just making up stuff?
Thuram's not going anywhere. Nice are actually on a bit of a run at the moment. If you notice, they're playing really decent stuff. That a 6-1 win over Montpellier with Ross Barkley started the show. They spend a lot of money. Nice. They're trying to get Terry Moffey, the striker, who's been linked everywhere. So I think Nice will be. They're trying to push on. They're only 10 points behind the top 4, but that's nothing in football, as we know, guys, don't we? And they beat Lille today. Nice are flying at the minute, and so letting Thuram go, one of the best players, that won't be happening this month. The only way Newcastle would do a deal with him is buying him and loading him back. We saw that with the Unani situation. No, Thuram won't be leaving at all. And Alvarez, he's holding midfielder. He played in central defence against Feyenoord last week. I'm not sure Alvarez is that fit. I don't know what Eddie wants to play. Does he really love that holding midfielder who won't move, which is a bit Alvarez. I think that would be like Ajax aren't gonna. We've seen Ajax negotiations to do sell players, they don't loan any, and to get Alvarez, you're looking at what 40, 30, 40, 50 ballpark figure, aren't you guys? So as we know, this. I think unless it's a loan deal, and there will be some foreign players who you can get on loan with a view, but I don't think Thuram's one of them. I don't think Alvarez is one of them either.
Interesting. Mark, I'll come to you. Do we need that player that just sits there in the midfield and protects and allows the others to get forward, or do we need someone that's got a little bit more about him, good on the ball, technically, able to link the play and join the play as well? What are your thoughts? What type of number 6 are we looking for if we are going to let Shelby go?
Listen, Pete, you know my side of it. I've always said, for me, we've always missed a David Batty type player who just sits in front of that defence, can play ball, can maybe go 5-10 yards up the pitch, just ping those little passes to get the midfield up and away. So for me, I think, look, we know that Bruno wants to go further up. He wants to play further up. He's clearly stated that in some couple of the interviews he's been doing. He said he wants to play further up. He's asked Eddie Howe to play further up. But at the minute, obviously, we've got, that middle seems to be kind of, you kind of got J7 one side, you got Bruno, you've got, Iron Longstaff on the opposite. So for me, I'd like to see Bruno further up. I think we do need, for me, ideally, you kind of want that kind of N'Golo Kante kind of player, just to break up the ball, get the foot in. And I know Bruno can do that, but I think for me, Bruno offers much more further up than he does taking a pass off a defender and then trying to go. So for me, I would love to see a good, decent ball-winning CDM come into that and push Bruno further up.
Do you think that's what he's going for, though, guys? Do you think that's what he's going for? Knowing Eddie, how high James Maddison is on the wanted list, knowing that he was looking for a wireman, do you really? I'm not sure I see Bruno that high up the pitch, but I think there is different. We see Frankie de Jong playing defensive. There's very different DMs out there. And I see Bruno very much like a De Jong. In Casemiro, we've seen him change, haven't we? Where he was a pure sitter at Madrid, wasn't he? Where he's brought his game out United. And I like Bruno where he is. I think if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And I think there's a reason that Eddie's looking for that. Sorry for the FIFA terminology. That Cam to play in there with Maddison being the top kid. I like Bruno being very much in that middle third, at least. I'm not sure I'd want to see him in the final third that often. I like him in that middle third where he can really just be that. The whole he's that central figure, the pivot, isn't he? He's the quarterback. I love Bruno now. I do.
I love Bruno as well, but I wonder, has you might have heard on Sky that Bruno has given them Eddie Howe a copy of his DVD, so he wants to play of his goals, so he wants to play number 8. But yeah, look at, I think someone mentioned Batty there. I'd love to see a CDM coming in there and shoring up that midfield. But yeah, look, we'll see what happens. I'm actually turn it back on you, Graeme, for a second, because I know you probably have to shoot off on this soon. But okay, you what's going to happen for Newcastle in the next 2 days? You said potential for ASM to move on. We know now that they're looking at, with Shelby looking like he's going to move off, and they're going to bring looking at midfield. Who do you see coming in?
Yeah, I say with this, I think it's if they really wanted him out this month, they could, but I don't think they will. You know, unless they really wanted a Jack Harris or something. But it's what I keep an eye very much for the summer guys for that one. But I think let's keep an eye on the Chelsea situation. I think it's fascinating, the Chelsea situation. If they did get Enzo Fernandez, they probably would need to get players out. So I think I will keep an eye on Chelsea. We know there's lines of communication there between Dan Ashworth and his counterpart at Chelsea. We know that. You know, you try to get Pulisic before. You know, we do know that. So I think Chelsea is a very interesting situation to keep an eye on. Gallagher or Loftus-Cheek potentially, and there will be others coming in. You know, do we see other links coming in? I saw Phil Billing linked to Valencia the other day. Would I be surprised to see him linked with Eddie again? Wouldn't surprise me. Quality footballer. There could be. We're going to see a few more names, guys, that aren't there now. But it's one who Newcastle know. I said, and it'd have to take an absolute worldie for them to take a chance on someone. We know they're not going to do that. But Eddie Howe and his scouts, Steve Nixon, etc., they've done an awful lot of work. And I say we've seen a lot of things. They might even still bring a young Brazilian in at some point. But again, that would be more of a future project.
Franca.
No, Frank is not coming. No, Flamengo have they've been doing a few silly days. I wrote about they were determined not to let Flamengo and João Gomez go. João Gomez, who's gone to Wolves. Fine, but yeah, Franca, top quality performer. I'm surprised they didn't push them more, but then not really, because then they spent the money on Gordon, etc. Andre Santos, wow, you must be. If I was Newcastle fans, I wouldn't be watching. Is it the World Under-23s or the South American 23s at the moment? Because Santos is taking that by storm. So don't watch that if you want to get depressed. Because to be fair though, you can take it the other way. You know, Newcastle spotted him, wanted him. So the scouts did a good job. It's unfortunate that Chelsea's mega money came in, but I said when you're fishing in the same pond as Chelsea, not always easy, is it? But I wouldn't sack Chelsea off too much, because they seem to be your biggest hope in this window of getting someone in.
We shall see.
How long we got with you, Graeme? Have you got time for a few more questions?
Yeah, I'll give you 5 more minutes, Pete. Go on.
We'll get value for money on this one.
He wore me out last time. I wore me out last time. I had 2 hours COVID. My missus said, "What have we been doing here?" I said, "That Pete, he works me too hard."
Let's have a look.
He didn't tell me, guys, either. I was on. I thought it was an hour show, and we're an hour and a half in. I was thinking, this is going on, isn't it?
Hey, Pete's done a 4.5-hour show once. He just got bored and kept going.
Let's not talk about that one.
I hope if you're doing a deadline day, I'll give you 5 minutes.
Yeah, we are.
Oh, you are. Oh, is that? I hope Pete. Is that a 12-hour stint for Pete? Is it?
No.
No, you
it feels like
Here it is. Here it is. Graeme, come along, drop in. We're doing a match day live, deadline day special. So there's the second leg of Newcastle.
I was hoping to go to the game, but unfortunately, my boss is. You know what I mean? I've got. I'll probably be otherwise engaged, unfortunately, to see them make it to Wembley.
Well, if you're free, feel free to drop.
Yeah, I'll be. Yeah, not a problem, guys. Should be free. We always hope, don't we? It doesn't come down the last day, but I think there'll be quite a lot happening last day. Yeah, so if I was you guys, I'd be looking at those aeroplanes from Lisbon to London, checking on those guys, because if Enzo Fernandez is on one of them, it gives you that chance.
Okay, well, we got a couple of questions on this one for Graeme. Obviously, if Shelby looking like moving on, and then, as you've said, potentially or possibly ASM later on. if there's anything in the Milan piece. Where do you see Newcastle going? What would be your choice then for a Shelby replacement?
Yeah, SM won't be to Milan. I think Ziyech will end up at Milan, if I'm being honest. If I'd say, yeah, I do like. I've always said to you guys, I think you do still lack that guy to unlock the defenses at times in some of these close games. Obviously, they hope that Gordon's going to be one of those players, but from central midfield, Jolinton, Longstaff, Bruno, sometimes that may not be the case. In an ideal world, you would go and get James Maddison. Of course you would. You rather than try to loan Gallagher or Loftus-Cheek, but obviously financial fair play rules that out. Obviously in an ideal world, yeah, you sign Maddison, but I think you're more likely to see, Loftus-Cheek or Gallagher. I think it probably will be one of them. But I think, as I said, it's better to Dovey Gallagher if he's not in. I think it'd be very hard for him to turn down Palace. I really think it'd be tough for him not to go back there. He had such a great time with Patrick Vieira. He had such a great time, didn't he, last year?
Yeah, and I think there's a lot of thought. I think his mother is that way as well. And I think he likes to be close to home. So I don't, as much as I'd love to see him come into Newcastle, I think he is a London lad. I think
it's a risk. It's a risk for him, isn't it, guys? Do you take the risk and come and play for Eddie Howe Newcastle, where you're not even, as I said about Loftus-Cheek, will he start? You can't guarantee a start for anyone, but if Gallagher goes to Palace, you can guarantee a start.
Yeah.
True.
Okay, let's have a look. A couple more. Okay, one here from Randall Nichols. Do you think we should push for the top 4 spot now, or continue to build a young team and aim for a top 10 this season?
No, nonsense. Top 4. You might not be in this position again.
Yeah,
exactly.
I would agree with that.
Go for it.
Okay.
You look at what's happening. Will Chelsea appoint a world-class manager and become unstoppable for the next 10 years? Will Arsenal be unstoppable? You don't know when this situation will arise again. Obviously, you guys hope you will be top 4 for the next 20 years, but we don't know.
Yeah, one from Felix. One we're talking about CDMs and stuff. He said, "What about Terrier from Rennes?
Wasn't he just forward from Rennes? I think he did.
Forward.
Didn't he do his knee?
Yeah.
He was ruled out for the season a few weeks ago, wasn't he? I think.
He was. Yeah.
Okay.
Good, very, very talented player though.
Testing me now.
Okay, we're talking about those moving. One from Gary Mout here says, "Guys, with Mickey having his best season and his age come the summer, would you sell him on?"
This price is dropping. It was 35 last show.
It'd be interesting with Miggy in his contract situation. I can't quite remember off the top of my head what his situation is, but we haven't seen this piff in Eddie Howe. Are they going to start limiting contracts to 30+ players and stuff? A lot of big clubs do. Obviously, I do think Miggy will get an extension at some point. Don't think it'll be a 4 or 5 year one, but he'll get himself a contract. He's earned it so far this season. Let's see how he finishes. But yeah, one swallow, someone doesn't make it. And as we said, Miggy's had a good half a season, and upstairs they'll be doing the data as well. And you do see a lot of these things. Look at the world's greatest player when he signed his contract was Mo Salah. He's done, They do use analytics, these situations, guys, don't they? When you play against 28, 29, 30, it's a tough call sometimes. Who'd have thought Mo Salah, for instance, would have dropped off like he did? And you look at these situations where you hand out these huge contracts, guys, and you got to be very careful.
There's one I've just put on, just started.
Yeah, go on, man.
From Neil Calvert, Mark. Good question. Do you think we will sign any pre-contract agreements with any players coming out of contract in the summer? Good question.
Yeah, possibly. I did think Newcastle would be in for Milan Skriniar. He's announced today that he's signed for PSG on a pre-contract, and obviously he might even move before Tuesday, guys. Actually, the PSG is trying to do that. Yeah, there's no reason why you don't have to do it in January. Obviously, we've got the likes of Marcus Thuram, one of the big ones, Moussa Dembele, lots of good free agents out there who are coming up. Yuri Tielemans probably the most appropriate one for Newcastle, but I say we do think he is probably Arsenal bound. But yeah, I think that will be it's not, it is a better deal sometimes on the pre-contracts. You do get his place for free. There's Rabiot at Juventus as well. Lots of good players, but I think again, I don't think Newcastle would sign a player just because he's free, unless it was a worldie like a Skriniar, where you do throw your hat into the ring if it's someone of that caliber. But in terms of what Newcastle want, I think if it's a player there on a Bosman who ticks the boxes, yes. But I don't think that we'll just sign a player because he's on a free. We know that's not how Newcastle are going to work.
I don't know how Tielemans would get in that Arsenal midfield. It's already good, and then if by some miracle they got Moses Caicedo, how is he going to fit in then?
Yeah, I don't think Caicedo is going to Arsenal personally, but Tielemans, you know, the Arsenal have been quite, I wouldn't say fortunate, but, you know, they haven't had many injuries this season. And it's all about squad depth, as you know, bringing Yuri Tielemans in. We're seeing Samuel Congo playing. If you've got Yuri Tielemans coming in, there's your upgrade, isn't it? You know, it's different. Yeah. Talk about different levels, the size of the gap between them two players. And that's what Newcastle have got coming up as well. You know, as much as that's what we needed, as we said in the last show, Pete, isn't it? That's what you need to do now. You need to get rid of these good Premier League players and get good international world-class players in.
Well, it's exactly what we're doing with Shelvey, Ryan Fraser, for example, Matt Ritchie, Paul Dummett, all the players that we've talked about, boys, that you know, they will go with our best wishes because of what they did under Ashley, keeping us in the Premier League. But
Hendrick, Kieran Clark, ASM, all of them.
Yeah.
Hendrick,
I thought I'd get him in there. I thought I'd get him in there. I did see him. He scored a worldie. I did see him score a worldie the other day. He's playing well for it. I did see him score a little worldie the other day.
Okay, another one here. Tom Dixon whacked in a good one here. Just question for Graeme. Who do you think has been the best signing of the window so far?
In terms of all that quality, Mudryk, I think he's a risk, but I think he's an absolute baller, to be honest, guys. I think he's sensational. Like him a lot. I think if Chelsea get Enzo Fernandez, I'd probably put him there because I think he's a little worldie as well. Yeah. So in terms of just pure based on the player talent, probably Mudryk.
I'll answer that as well. Chris Wood from Notts Forest, brilliant signing by them.
Make sure he pays the 15 million.
Yes,
that's all we say. Look, Graeme, I know you've got to go. Thank you for spending the hour or just over the hour with us, answering all the questions and giving us the lowdown from your perspective.
Cheers, Graeme.
Newcastle.
Not a problem, guys.
As always,
a pleasure having you on.
Might see you Tuesday.
Yeah, I wish you, Joe. Hey, wish you guys best of luck for the semi-final, and I hope you're in good spirits as you're confirming the signing by Tuesday. I think there's a fair chance. I don't see them stopping Shelvey from going, but I think we'll have something lined up.
Yeah, definitely.
I think so too.
Graeme, top man.
Cheers, guys. Have a good rest of the weekend.
Take care.
See you, mate.
Great to have Graeme on.
He loves the ASM, really. He really loves it. Look at him. He's ready to come back on.
I love it. Such a great guest, and definitely a huge friend of the channel for us as well. So great to have him on, and look, it's on. The Ruben Loftus-Cheek interest is on.
Not if Daz is having anything to do with it.
No.
Let's see. Let's see.
Quite a good couple of points, Pete. To be fair, quite a few in the comments said the same thing, which is we're talking about obviously the Shelvey deal being sanctioned and getting the green light and looking at a replacement. But people are making the point we've done half a season without him near enough.
Yeah, but we need strength and depth. We all going into the window. We needed some strength and depth in midfield.
Does that open up things without him there? Does that push Joe Linton further into the CM role? So there's a few options. People, another good one coming up talking about obviously if we don't replace Shelvey and we push Joe Linton further in, that left-hand side, you've now got Isaac, ASM, you've got Elliott who can play out there, and you've obviously got Willock who can play out that way. So there are options there.
Yeah, at the same time, Elliot Anderson needs to go out and loan. If there's no good him sitting on the bench.
Absolutely. We got a couple of people did say that in the chat as well. Can't remember where I put it. Which was, look, if Elliot's not going to get game time, we need to be giving him game time because otherwise it's just an absolute waste of talent, which I couldn't agree with more. Absolutely.
Definitely. It's going to be a very, very interesting. Chris has just put something in the chat that I just need to look at because I forgot this even was a thing. And he put they've just people in the Northwest Mags chat have just made me aware that would actually got a wage increase moving to Forest. If he is on that 30 grand a week, then how he managed to get a wage increase, I have no idea. I don't believe it. I don't believe he's on 100 grand a week because there's no way that Forest would be crazy enough to pay him more than 100 grand a week. There is no way. And I have to say as well, whilst we've been on the show, Richie's put from 1 or 2 potential in the know accounts on the NUFC talk have said about Sanderberg most likely to sign for Newcastle. I have to say NUFC talk were the same ones that said about Madison that a fee was close to being agreed yesterday. It turned out that it was rubbish, and Rudy Galletti had reported on it as if it was factual. Newcastle fans hammered him for. They've also put tonight that Sanderberg's most likely to sign for Newcastle. So take it with a pinch of salt that they've put that out there. Also, Newcastle in the know hub have put out exclusively that Newcastle have contacted agents of Lautaro Martinez. Again, in the know hub, I'm not quite sure I would believe that. Let's wait for the likes of, whether it's Graeme, whether it's Keith, whether it's Craig Hope, whether it's Luke Edwards. Some people don't like Luke Edwards, but I tell you what, he's been right and correct on a lot of our Newcastle deals that have come in. You might not like him about the takeover, I certainly didn't. But in terms of Newcastle transfer news, he is generally on the button. He got Craig Pope. He got Nick Pope coming in. He got Alexander Isak before it was even a deal. He's talked about 1 or 2 deals with regards to Gordon and obviously Shelby tonight. He's been first to a number of things. So, all these guys that I've just mentioned, they're the ones that I would kind of look to if they're going to be confirmed. But look, these in the know 1 or 2 sites are also throwing bits of information out, and of course we'll keep an eye on everything. And look, really, you know what? We're not quite done yet, but I mean, it's been a really, really good show. First and foremost, over 500 for the majority of the show, if not all of the show. Amazing guest. If you haven't, again, I said it earlier, click those thumbs up, click the sub, come and join the channel. We're on the march to 6K. We are producing some fantastic content. The 5 of us are absolutely enjoying what we're doing on Loaded Mag NUFC at the moment, and it's not the end. We are continuing to bring lots and lots of news and information, all things Newcastle, to you as well. Look, Tom has put a question in here. I'll come to it. Sorry, Mark.
Go on, pal.
Keep stealing the chat, but I want to ask you boys this question. It says, Tom Dixon, new mod, by the way.
Right, Tom. You have to deliver.
And Jules.
Jules, yeah.
Hopefully Jules is still in the chat.
Yeah, no, she's still there.
Justin.
2 more spanners.
And Michael as well. Michael Palmer.
Yes. Michael's in the chat.
Welcome, spanners.
Welcome the spanners. And Tom Dixon's put, do we expect a few out before the window closes? So like Richie and Dummett that we mentioned earlier. Do you think those boys will go, or do you think it's a case of they're going to stay until the season's out? What are your boys' thoughts?
I think Fraser, if anybody, I just don't see anybody wanting to take these lads. And I think unless we kind of cut contracts or just let them run down, I just don't see them moving on. Like, I know it sounds, look, they've all been really good. They've been good servants. John Joe Shelby, look, if he moves on, I'd be the first to put my hand up and go, do you know what? For what he's done for us, championship season in particular, goals he scored, the belt we scored, the curler against QPR, we were in the championship. He's been a great servant to us. Okay, got the injury this season, but you'd have to hold your hat off and go, do you know what? Fair play to him. He's done us well and served us well. So if he does move on, then fair play to him, and I wish him all the very best. But some of the other lads, I just think we need to cut some ties. I said it with the whole the piece earlier with Shelby. We can't be sentimental anymore with Richie and some of these other guys. We can't carry that squad. We just need to cut ties. So for me, I think I don't see Richie going. I think Fraser would probably be the obvious one. Maybe we need to loan a couple out, like Lewis. Maybe we need to loan out Anderson. But other than that, I don't think anybody wants them.
No. Daz, your thoughts?
Yeah. for me, I'd echo what Martin said about Shelby. I think he's back on grass, training grass there not so long ago as well. So if Forest do pick him up, they're getting a good player. He's only 30, he's 31 in February, and he's a better player than he was a couple of months ago as well, or like a year ago under Bruce. You know, so he would have, if he didn't get injured, he would be playing a key part for us this season, I think. As regards the actual question. I think Fraser will move on. It's just where he'll end up. I think we're even start talking about Everton today. But the likes of Richie, Dummett, who I call the mascots, but they are playing a key role as part of the leadership team, and that's why Eddie Howe is going to hold on to them. I think there would be clubs lower, maybe Championship or lower again, that would take them, but I don't see them going this window. Somewhere they're gone. They have to be gone.
Definitely. Julie, you are a fantastic spanner. You put it in the chat. You are a fantastic spanner. It's great to have you on board with all of us loaded boys as well. And interestingly, Craig Lee, Craig Lee's put is Graeme Ruben agent. Daz definitely thinks that's the case, 110%.
Yeah, and ASM was someone that he tried to hire, but it didn't happen. It didn't happen for Graeme. God, he hates ASM. Jesus.
That's right. And Martin was loving life, weren't he, when he talked about ASM?
Do you know what? I was sitting there. I was saying, well, there's absolutely no way Pete's asking me in on this conversation, so I may as well just sit and enjoy it.
Mark, I didn't even want to be in the conversation. I want to know as soon as possible. But no,
yeah, look, ASM's a funny one. It just, I have to agree with Graeme. I don't see him as the long term. I agree with the comment about him not being an Eddie Howe type of player, and I think he's right. Pete, me and you've talked about this, and we've agreed to disagree on ASM last season. Has he been okay since he's been coming back? Yeah, he has, but I think we just have better options. I don't think he's a starting player. I think Graham's right. I think he's a squad player now with where we're going. And I think when you see him at that start, I don't listen. If Eddie thought he was a starting man, he'd be starting. Simple as that for me, and he's not. So that just makes me question and look at it and go, he's probably not for the longer term. And I know some people will jump up and down, but I just think that's the reality.
Honestly, I think I've said this to a couple of people. I think we get a Champions League ready left-sided attacking midfielder in summer. That's just my opinion. This is why I've got the mindset of this is why a lot of people are saying about Gordon playing on the left. This is why I think he'll play on the right. And if you look at his stats, he's played for Everton all season on the right-hand side. Yeah. So I think he's going to be initially an understudy to Miggy with the view that Miggy's 28, 29 soon, that he will eventually take over Miggy's role on the right-hand side. And I genuinely think we're going to sign someone on the left-hand side, which moves Joe Linton back into the midfield.
Yeah,
where
I think that's where we'll go.
And I think we're going to get a Champions League ready type left-sided. And it will ask the question, and this is always the thing that I maintain, and this is always the thing that I think me and you, Mark, have agreed on with ASM, although we've had differences of opinions before. The beauty of Loaded Mag and NUFC, this is what we do, is that the one thing that we've agreed on is that if he's not up to scratch, they'll move him on. And if he's not good enough and he's not playing the football that's good enough to get in the team, they'll move him on. And I think it'll be the real test next season, because I think he'll stay. I don't think he'll go in the summer personally, but I think we will sign a left-sided attacking midfielder, and it'll be a case of how we'll say to him, right, can you stay fit for a season?
Fight for your place.
Can you produce that quality week in, week out that demands that you stay in that team? If you do, you're in. If you're not, you'll be on the bench. And if you're not happy, we'll move you on. And it will throw the question of, can we, do we need the ASM to come on and make a difference? We need that bit of creativity. I think we'll sign a player that can give us that. And then ASM either has to step up to the plate or he moves on. Simple as that. And I've always been the same, and I'm like that with any player. I love players. Yeah. Players have come and gone in this team. Ben Arthur, another one, loved him at Newcastle. I know Chris is a massive fan of Ben Arthur.
Yeah.
Absolutely loved him at Newcastle. But when he stopped playing in the second season after we finished 5th, and he started just turning up whenever he felt like it, I was always of the mindset is if you're not going to put it in and you're not going to put those performances in every week, then you're out the team. And we sometimes put Johan Gouffran on there, who isn't the same type of player, but would put a shift in and would nick a goal there here and there. He's in the team, like simple as. And it has to be the same with Newcastle. We're going in a different trajectory, and we need players to either say, right, they're with us and they're going to play up to that standard, or if they're not, see you later. Giorgio Shelvey is a perfect example of that.
Yeah.
He's moving on potentially.
I felt though. Sorry, Martin, just on that ASM.
Yeah.
I felt though I just had to kind of stick up a bit for ASM because he is putting in the effort. He is trying to modify his game. He's starting to get the confidence back. I think the second half of the season, I think he's going to do something for us. He's going to be the hero on some occasion. He could be even in the cup final yet. So. There's this, and then when we get to the summer, yes, I'm willing to assess, and maybe it would be time to move on. But I don't see him going in the next 2 days or whatever.
No, I don't think he'll go this window. I think the summer's more likely. But yeah, look, I'm not saying he's not a baller, because he is. But Pete, when we've chatted, my piece has always been about just the consistency from him.
Yeah.
And I still don't see that game on game. I don't see that star player. I see it in fleeting games, and that for me is probably why he's not starting every game. If you look at Miggy so far this season, he's been on form all season. I know you talk about form and players getting game time and everything else, but they're the players that stay in the team. If you're not producing, you don't hit the first 11, and it's simple as that. Interesting. Just we're talking about Gordon and Miggy and where they're going to play left and right. As Chris B makes a point there. He reckons he'll play on the left because Eddie likes to play inverted wingers, which is a good point.
Yeah, very, very good point.
He could go left and Miggy still on the right, which again,
I think he'd go left.
I think he'll go left as well and cuts him right. Which I know, Pete, you said he plays a lot on the right, but that he does tend, when he's on the left, he loves to come in right, and that's where he wins a lot of fouls, cutting in from the right with that right foot. So I think it'll be interesting. But if that is the case, and Gordon gets in that team and starts left, you really then have to look at ASM and go, I don't know, you'd move him to the right, Pete, but then maybe ASM goes to the right, and then you've got the problem with Miggy. So
I'm only going off what he's done for Everton this season. Look, let's face it, Everton are a horrible team. And so, maybe he was playing there to do a job for Everton because that's all he could do. But yeah, ultimately, if you look at last season where he was playing some of his best football, I remember, I think they drew or lost the game at Anfield, but he was an absolute menace for Liverpool. And Liverpool were in their pomp at this point. He was a menace for Liverpool on that left-hand side. He destroyed their Liverpool's right-hand side, Gordon did. He was very, very good that game, and he really, really impressed me. And he played a number of games on that left-hand side, including, I think, when Newcastle came to town and they ended up beating us, played on that left-hand side. So, look, for me, it's about, can we test players? Can we look at players and go, you know what? You're not guaranteed a place in this team. I want your spot. Are you going to step up to the plate, or are you going to allow me to come in? And Gordon won't start. He'll come off the bench against West Ham next Saturday, but he'll be bang up for it. And this was the big thing. I just want to talk about this really quickly because I know there's some questions in and loads of people putting points in. If you remember, in the summer, in the full load of transfers in the summer, the one question I had about Anthony Gordon was, I didn't believe that he would be able to show the same determination and passion that he showed when playing for Everton, because at Everton, that was kind of his boyhood club. He's been there since he was a kid, and he had that extra little oomph about him in the way in which he played. And I was always question marking whether he could do that at another club if he moved. And if he came to Newcastle, could he show that same determination? For me, what's happened to him at Everton and the way the fans have treated him and the way the club have effectively treated him, I think he's coming to Newcastle with that fire, that hunger in his belly to really prove them wrong.
Prove people wrong, yeah.
So I think he's going to be hitting the ground running. It wouldn't surprise me if he has a real fiery start.
I think he'll have a good second half season, I think he'll do well.
It would not surprise me at all. And you know what? Great if it means ASM's out the team because Gordon's tearing it up. fantastic. Same with Miggy. I don't care. As long as we're winning matches and those boys are tearing it up, I don't care who starts. Like, I love certain players because I love their abilities, but at the same time, look, we're all the same anyway. We all think the same. As long as they're giving everything and we're winning matches, like we're quite happy with whoever's starting the game. So that's my perspective and yours as well.
Yep.
Given everything for the shirt, what was the quote? We're not a team that demands to be winning. It's just a team that tries. Yeah.
Well done, Daz. You get there in the end, mate.
Oh yeah, it was on a flag. Yeah, war flag.
T-shirt, but it was close enough.
I know Michael's not a big fan of Gordon. He just put a comment on. He just put it on.
Yeah, he says he had a long spell of press at North End, was far from impressive. Having said that, Pete's on point. Where it ended, left him with a point to prove. Yeah, I think Michael's bang on. I think he'll come in. You know, me and Pete were chatting earlier, saying when he comes straight in, when he come off the bench, I think Pete's right. He'll come off the bench and he'll bet in like we did with Botman, like we did with other players coming in with Bruno and stuff. So, but again, I think Eddie knows the thing. Another good point there. I forget where it's gone now. Somebody put up, you know, push come to shove, you could also play Gordon as a 10 through the middle.
Yeah.
Which is, you could do that as well. You could also play Isaac there. So there are options. And I think that's the key thing for me. We're building into the squad. We now have options. The biggest thing we've had with our bench has been when we do have to bring off players of quality, we haven't had the quality to go on. So be able to now talk about having options of, okay, where's Miggy go? Where's ASM go? What do we do with Gordon?
Yeah.
That's where we should be.
Definitely. I don't know how long we've got, boys, but look, we can take some questions or however you want to.
I have to shoot, but you guys can go on. Yeah, I've got a couple of bits to do, but you guys are more than welcome. But I'll shoot if you guys want to carry on.
Yeah, we'll carry on for a few minutes. We want to give a shout out to the sponsor as well. You're going to head out now
before you do that. Yeah. No. I was due to be finished for about 8:30, but I winged it. So no, just Mrs. doing a little bit of work, and I just got to sort Junior out for bed and stuff. So yeah, I will bail.
Top man, Mark.
Great to talk as well. Yeah, I see you Tuesday night, if not before. We'll talk.
Yeah, maybe tomorrow. Maybe tomorrow. Yeah,
tomorrow. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, if not, if nothing happens, we will. But if not, then Tuesday night for the watch along and end of window. So yeah, look forward to it. See you all then, boys.
Top man.
See you later, Mark.
All right, boys. Take care. Take it easy.
Pete, while you're looking at potential questions there, I'm just going to give a shout out to the sponsors. I'll just flick over here to the other tab. Give a shout out to theradiatorshed.com as we put ourselves in jail. So you know at this stage where to go if you need any radiator heating requirements. Go to the radiatorshed.com and there's a lovely colored new radiators that Russ has going there, and check out the website for the latest. These are the pictures from the past. Also, shout out to the Install Works, Russ's other company. So if you need to get those radiators installed, no better man, he will sort you out. And shout out to our newest sponsor in the shape of H2O Bathroom Design Co. And
Hold on.
Breaking news. As Martin leaves.
There is breaking news. Right. Okay, let's get down to it. Newcastle are exploring a loan deal for Sheffield United midfielder Sander Berg.
As we said tonight.
Craig Hope has brought the breaking news to us. So, as we talked about earlier on in the show, guys, Sander Berg, centre midfielder for Sheffield United, he is a player that Newcastle are looking at officially. Craig Hope has just confirmed it literally in the last minute. Now, sorry, Daz, you clicked that one. But yes, that is the breaking news right now, just coming out. We are looking at and exploring a deal for midfielder Sander Berg. As well, breaking news. Fantastic. You know what? I like him. I really like him as a player.
You really like him, yeah.
Yeah.
Because you mentioned him like about, it was 6 months ago or a year ago, Pete, you mentioned him.
This time last year.
Yeah.
During the Fully Loaded Transfer Show, the official launch, the first launch of Fully Loaded Transfer Show, we had players. I tell you what, it was in the same breath because we talked about, and it was one of the first shows that we did. It was either the first or second show. We talked about Brennan Johnson from Forest. And we had his clip of when he was at Lincoln on loan, and we had a number of other players. Sanderberg was in that conversation. Sanderberg has been confirmed. Breaking news right now. We bring you the breaking news on Loading Bag and UFC. We do not miss a trick, and Newcastle are exploring a loan deal for Sanderberg. More to follow. So, is it going to be a loan with a view to buy? Looks like it could well be that way. So Sanderberg. And go on, Das. 1 second.
Yeah, no. As I said earlier, I don't know an awful lot about him apart from looking at the YouTube clip before the show where he's 24. I think he's about 6 foot. He's a tall guy, all right. And is he a kind of central defensive midfielder or more? How would you describe him, Pete?
Okay, so physically tall. I think he's about 6'2", 6'3".
5 on his the thing I saw today. The video clip.
Tall physically. He's a strong lad, big physically strong lad. But what I love about him is that he could play in a number 8 and he can play as a number 6. And he's good at winning the ball back in tight positions. But what I love about Sanderberg is that his ability on the ball. It fits Bruno. It fits Joe Linton. You look at the way we play, the little tight 1-2 passes in midfield that we do with the likes of Longstaff and Bruno, and we bring in Trippier and we bring in Almiron, or on the left-hand side, we bring in the likes of Joe Linton and ASM. He just fits that because he's so comfortable on the ball. He can travel long distances. Adding to that, he can score a goal. He knows how to hit the ball from long distance, and he can find himself in the box a little bit like what Longstaff does, but he's a better finisher than him. And I just like it. And you know what? If he hadn't had 2 long-term injuries at Sheffield United, one when they got relegated and another one last season in January, funnily enough, which is when we were linked with him the first time and it never got materialised because he was only just coming back from an injury. I genuinely think Eddie Howe would have gone for him then. Because he should not be playing championship football right now. For me, he should have gone. For me, I wouldn't have been surprised when he signed for Sheffield United. I wouldn't have been surprised someone like an Arsenal or Tottenham picking him up, and because he was wanted by everyone in Europe. He was the top young talent coming out of Belgium at that particular time, and it was a shock that Sheffield United signed him. Absolute shock. My very good mate Craig, mentioning. When he signed them, because he's a Sheffield United fan, he was buzzing and he could not believe that they'd sign a player like that. He is exactly what we need. Get Loftus-Cheek out the window.
Yes, I love it.
Sanderberg one. If we are getting him, and look, let's not say that it's a done deal, but Fulham were linked with a potential £20 million deal and were potentially in talks. He wasn't in the squad today for the FA Cup game against Wrexham. He wasn't in the squad at all, which when I messaged my mate to ask a little bit of an update from his perspective, because he's a massive Blades fan, he said, it looks like he's going. He's only got 18 months left on his contract. It looks like he's going for a fee. Now, could it be that we do a loan fee with a view to a £25 million deal? So do we do a £20 million deal with a £5 million loan, a little bit higher than what Fulham do to ensure that we get the loan before we actually buy him? Is there an obligation in there? I don't know, but they're exploring a deal. Really, really interesting that they're obviously looking at that deal right now. I'm buzzing at that. Yes, what do you mean?
Yeah, just looking at his on Wikipedia. Yeah, he's Norwegian international, and it's come through all the youth teams there for Norway. 32 caps for Norway and 1 goal to date. In the full international squad, but would be an interesting one, and it's interesting as well that would test him out, I guess, first by bringing him in alone, or else they'll if he does well, you imagine then they try to make the deal permanent, or else maybe they have something else up their sleeve for the summer. So stay tuned as Craig Hope with that breaking news. So keep an eye on that one. And so I think we will be back tomorrow, Pete, for another show. What do you think?
I tell you what, if things are moving with Sander Berg, I'll be on. That is for sure. I'll be on 100%. Jordy Two Flights put Sander Berg's apparently 6'5". He's taller than I thought he was. Then I've not actually watched him live, but you can tell on TV when you watch him, he's a tall guy.
Yeah, he's tall.
He's but it's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting what we do, whether how we're going to be able to hijack that deal from Fulham. Look, let's face it. Let's not beat around the bush. And I said this to Martin earlier on when we were talking on the chat. If Newcastle come in and it's a choice between Fulham and Newcastle, there's no doubt. And actually, talking to my mate tonight, he was like, "I don't want him to go to Fulham. If he leaves the club, I want him to come to Newcastle because like, my mate Craig, he loves Newcastle. He loves coming up to Newcastle whenever Sheffield United play, and he was like, "Look, it's a proper club, and he needs to come to a proper club if he's going to leave us." They don't want him to leave because they're on a potential title tilt, and certainly looking like they're going to get promoted to the Premier League. But can you really turn down the opportunity to play at a team that are fighting for the Champions League? And he knows that as a Blades fan, and he was like, "You know what? If they're going to go anywhere, I want him to go to Newcastle." So fingers crossed on that deal. Let's see how that materializes. But Sander Berg, top player, 24 years old, still got bags of time to really kick into gear. And you know what? I would even go as far as saying that he's already better than Sean Longstaff. Way better than Sean Longstaff. He comes in better than what John Joe Shelby will give you. He is a guy that could come in and actually start straight off the bat for Newcastle United and come in as an instant starter alongside your Bruno and Joe Linton. Get Bruno forward, getting him scoring goals, get Joe Linton breaking up everything in midfield, and that could be the lift that we really need in order for that midfield to thrive in the second half of the season.
Right, I'm just going to finish off the sponsors, and then we'll tell people what might be. No, that's exactly what we wanted. But back to where was I? H2O Bathroom Design Co. Martin from H2O there. If you ever need to shout out to someone, the Northeast largest supplier of Velcro and Botch bathroom wear. Team Valley Gateshead, over 20 years established, run by the family. Get down to the showroom on 11th Avenue. Team Valley Estate in Gateshead. So check those out. And here are the bathrooms. I'd say they have to be seen to be believed. Go down to the showroom and check that out. Their quality.
Amazing.
We will probably be back tomorrow night with another show. With everything that's happening now, there's going to be things happening during the day tomorrow. That's probably it on the breaking news for tonight, I would guess. But who knows? It's been a crazy day. But so expect a show tomorrow of some description. Then we're back on Tuesday for our, as we mentioned earlier, the Loaded Match Day Live and Deadline Day special for the second leg of the Carabao Cup. And also, let me switch back here again. We will be back towards the end of the week with away days. And who have you got on away days, Pete?
Well, there was a chat. There's a comment on here from Craig Lee saying, "Lawless on away days, please." Well, we have delivered. Dan Lawless is from West Ham Fans TV, is joining us for the West Ham preview on Thursday, 7:30. Don't miss it. It's going to be fireworks, because if you've seen our chat tonight on Twitter, or this morning, should I say, stroke afternoon, he has some clear opinions of Harrison Ashby. And of course, he has opinions on everything. He is very, very opinionated with all things football. It's not West Ham.
He's a good guy. He's a good guy.
He's a great guy. He is. But I love having the conversation with him, because he does know his stuff, but some of the stuff as well is also kind of like fairy tale. So I love to question him on some of these bits. So we're gonna ask the tough questions to Dan Lawless and get involved. It's going to be an absolute cracker in the build-up to a massive, massive game.
Exactly. And of course, then we'll be back with a reaction show over the weekend as well. But that's really it on shows coming up on Loaded. There might be a few more reaction shows. Who knows what would happen, what will drop. So that was really it. I think we'll probably round it off for the night, Pete. What do you think? Let's get some more breaking news.
I'm getting no. I'm getting a lot of messages through from various different people asking about Sander Berg. Those people, I'm just saying, look, just come back and watch our show because I've already talked about Sander Berg from my perspective and what I think about him. But I'm also trying to get through to my mate. I know he's busy with a few things, but he's a massive Blaze fan. Been Blaze fan since we knew each other since 10 years old, and goes to pretty much all the games. So I know that he'll give us the lowdown on Sander Berg and what's likely to happen.
Would he come on?
No, because I've asked him before when we had Sheffield United in the Premier League. He's got no chance of coming on. He won't want to come on, but he has watched some of the shows before and he loves what we do. So I will ask him his opinion on Sander Berg. He'll know the lowdown from Sheffield and what's been talked about at Sheffield, and that might give us an indication whether it's happening for Newcastle as well. So look, obviously I keep the Loaded Boys informed on all of that, and if we are signed up for a show tomorrow night, which I'm sure we will be, I'll talk a little bit more about it then. But Sander Berg, come on, let's get him in. Quality player, good addition.
All right, everyone, good night. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday night. How'd you like that?
How you like